It was exactly 17 hours off the Venezuelan coast when a faint signal pulsed across screens.
A phantom skiff sitting low and rapid cuts through Caribbean waters, meeting a desperate appointment with death.
For the next 6 minutes, that insignificant radar blip executes the most suicidal maneuver possible on screen.
It sprints headlong toward the Mason, an Arleigh Burke-class warship designed for total war, not smugglers.
Yet drifting south of Puerto Rico near Venezuelan territory, the sensors miss nothing, traveling at 45 knots.
Contact bearing 180, range 10 miles, velocity increasing, echoes through the Professional Combat Information Center.
Yet nobody is breathing normally because the Phantom craft is currently ignoring every single alert from the destroyer.
They refuse to answer in English or Spanish, and certainly not on the global maritime distress frequencies.
It simply pushes full throttle directly at one of the most lethal vessels operating on the open ocean.
Through high-powered optics, the bridge crew spots 4 silhouettes aboard, with no flags and no registration marks. One figure near the back manipulates a metallic cylindrical object, far too large to be standard fishing gear. Then reality shifts as a sudden violent flash erupts on the deck monitors, resembling a weapon launch sequence. White smoke billows, followed instantly by a massive detonation that shreds the skiff hull into scattered flaming debris. The entire craft is consumed by raging fire and disappears behind a massive wall of white ocean water. For a split second, everyone assumes they are under direct attack. However, within moments, that specific theory disintegrates.
The blast originated from inside the Narco boat, as the Mason maintains heading, and the flames quickly extinguish.
The debris scatters, and as the gray smoke dissipates, a single dangerous question currently hangs in the air.
Did the U.S. Navy just intercept a lethal threat, or did they simply watch the wrong boat die?
By 1424 hours, the USS Mason is holding its station, with the turbines spinning down low.
The radar track displaying an accelerating target is now just a cloud of wreckage, cooling steel and oil. What began as a standard intercept has instantly morphed into a geopolitical catastrophe that is waiting to happen. Down in the Combat Information Center, specialists review the sensor data frame by frame to find the truth.
The target, designated Track Sierra 041, never released a weapon before the flare ignited the hold. A mechanical failure, perhaps, or something volatile like contraband that was simply not meant to spark just yet.
Regardless, the situation is dire, because the Mason received explicit orders from U.S. Southern Command 2 hours prior.
The standing order was to intercept suspected narcotic vessels currently operating to the east of Los Monjes Islands.
That directive was a key component of Operation Marlin Shield, an American counter-trafficking initiative hunting fast speedboats.
They hunted semi-submersibles funneling cocaine toward the Dominican Republic and the coast of Puerto Rico right now.
Pentagon leadership described this specific event as a lawful engagement against a hostile craft tied to narco-terrorism.
In the fog of war, truth is the first casualty. But at impact, there was no confirmed identity. There were only radar pings, heat signatures, and heavy suspicions surrounding the incident at that exact specific moment.
The Mason primary surface search radar initially acquired the incoming bogey at 1411 hours 8 miles out.
It was skirting the boundary of Venezuelan waters when the unknown boat refused to answer the radio hails.
That alone constituted a breach of international maritime safety laws, so the crew followed the book exactly.
Phase 1, radio the vessel. Phase 2, attempt visual verification. And Phase 3, blast warnings over shipping channels.
When all 3 attempts failed, the Mason command shifted to defensive posture, spinning up the 20mm autocannon.
They engaged the FLIR forward-looking infrared camera to finally get eyes on the crew of the boat.
Through the thermal lens, the picture became sharp,
showing 4 souls on board with almost no equipment visible. Tubular parcels stacked near the engine matched the exact profile Navy intelligence associates with high-value drugs. Then came the surprise, as the suspicious craft suddenly snapped its course straight for the USS Mason destroyer.
Bearing steady CPA under 500 yards, a watchstander yelled, "That is way too aggressive for a smuggler!"
At 14:21, the Mason pushed a final alert in Spanish, demanding the unknown vessel heave to.
Silence followed with no navigation lights and no drop in RPMs, and just the high-pitched whine of outboards.
Inside the pilot house, every sailor gazed locked on the glass, asking, "What is the protocol for ramming?"
The captain's response was curt, stating, "We do not guess, we confirm, regarding the incoming high-speed threat."
The MH-60 Romeo Seahawk callsign Romeo 21 lifted off the flight deck in seconds to investigate. From that vantage point, you could witness the absolute madness of their approach, 300 feet above sea. The boat nose slammed into heavy waves with no evasive turns, and then the flash captured in definition.
A burst of intense heat from the rear of the skiff, followed immediately by total structural failure.
The helicopter crew orbited twice, verifying the debris field, detecting no hostile missiles and no outgoing tracers or explosions.
This was not a firefight. It was a self-destruction that left only questions floating in the water.
Within 60 minutes, U.S. defense leaders briefed the press, labeling it a precision strike on a narco boat.
Yet among the Mason crew, nobody was cheering, because every sailor aboard that destroyer understood the grim reality.
That blast did not come from a warhead or gun. It came from whatever that skiff was hauling.
Either the Navy stopped a deadly payload, or someone just watched the wrong target burn in the ocean.
By 15:02 hours, the Mason deck is chaotic, with sound blades chopping air and radios buzzing.
The speedboat is erased and reduced to flaming scraps, yet the mission does not end with a fireball.
They found torn fiberglass, blackened steel, and 4 life vests floating in the water, but none are inflated.
The pilot relays the grim news that no survivors were spotted, and a potential fuel fire still burns.
Inside the ship, Combat Information Center specialists tag every floating object on the screen for the official record. Each item is photographed, cataloged, and uplinked to Fleet Command via the Navy Cooperative Engagement Network right away.
Within moments, analysts back in Florida are viewing the live feed, and the Pentagon demands immediate clarity now. The initial official statement from the Pentagon, distributed via Reuters, asserts the target carried narcotics and hazardous materials.
However, according to the Mason internal logs, no drugs were ever verified prior to the sudden internal detonation.
Suddenly, a dull orange heat signature glows near the wreckage of the stern, and the operator zooms in. A sealed industrial drum, miraculously intact, bobbing upright, is stamped with the stenciled black characters reading PDVSA.
That is the acronym for Petróleos de Venezuela, the state-run oil giant, causing the narrative to turn.
If the cargo was gasoline or industrial solvents, and the blast might have been sparked by the smugglers themselves.
It could have been caused by a tracer round, a static shock, or even a simple motor failure.
By sunset, this event is a global headline as news networks loop the grainy video of the fireball.
The Pentagon publishes a 20-second snippet titled "Vessel Neutralization Caribbean Sector" for the public to view online.
The issue is, the explosion looks nothing like a missile strike, with no smoke trail or splashdown visible. There is just a singular internal boom, followed by the boat evaporating, which prompts skeptics to ask questions.
Was the skiff hauling improvised bombs? Or was it a civilian fuel smuggler caught in the wrong coordinates?
Satellite data from Planet Labs, reviewed by the Washington Post, reveals no sign of naval artillery in zone.
It verifies U.S. warships running counter-narcotic sweeps less than 8 miles from Venezuelan territorial seas right now.
By 2040 hours, Venezuela Defense Ministry broadcasts a televised condemnation accusing the United States of illegal assault.
They label it an act of piracy, accusing the United States of a cowardly and illegal assault. Operated lawfully to defend its assets and allies from a hostile narco-terrorist platform, eliminating 4 combatants.
Except the term enemy does not sit well with everyone because, as Reuters highlights, no formal ID
was ever established, meaning the dead men names remain a mystery. Back on the Mason sailors' loop.
They loop the thermal recording for the 10th time, and one frozen frame reveals a distinct shape.
If that is accurate, it changes the entire history, and the ship official logs record it coldly. Contact Sierra 041, destroyed via internal combustion. No hostile fire observed. Inquiry is currently pending.
But in the mess hall, a different rumor spreads. One they will never admit on camera today.
That boat was not attacking. It was begging for rescue, and the U.S. Navy just turned it.
Into the messiest diplomatic disaster in the Caribbean since 1989 by the following dawn morning. By October 4th, 2025, the explosion had mutated from a tactical event into a showdown.
The U.S. Navy labels it a clean anti-drug hit, while Caracas calls it an assassination attempt. Within hours, Venezuela announces a maritime state of emergency, launching coastal patrols and fighter jets along Paraguana. State TV airs clips of sailors racking weapons and hoisting the flag over warships. Meanwhile, in Washington,
according to AP News Secretary Hegseth maintains that the target was positively identified as a narco craft.
He emphasizes that the blast happened during a lawful event of reaction, which is a critical specific phrase.
Under international statutes, specifically the UN Convention, a naval vessel may only deploy lethal force against threats.
But the video proof shows no incoming tracers, no evasive zigzags, and no warning shots fired.
So was a threat actually present? According to Reuters, unnamed sources inside Southern Command concede sensor ambiguity.
They suggest a secondary chemical explosion might have happened inside the target boat, implying an accidental blow.
But for Venezuela, the narrative is already set, and at 1400 hours, Caracas lodges a complaint.
They brand the strike a calculated act of aggression and a breach of maritime borders at UN.
Power is not just about force. It is about who controls the story regarding the Caribbean Sea. Over 6 months, the U.S. has quietly widened Operation Marlin Shield, clearing Navy destroyers and drone fleets.
They engage hostile skiffs suspected of trafficking throughout the Caribbean, yet on paper it is drug interdiction.
In reality, it is a flex of military muscle, as Time magazine observes the 4th fatal incident.
All occurred in roughly the same sector, international waters, just beyond the Venezuela-claimed economic zone border. The objective is to sever trafficking arteries allegedly guarded by corrupt Venezuelan officers, but allies are anxious.
The European Union diplomatic wing issues a guarded memo requesting patience, while Brazil demands de-escalation immediately.
There is a larger factor here: political timing, as the incident happens days after fresh sanctions hit.
Call that steel drum marked PDVSA fished from wreckage. Venezuelan authorities now assert it was transporting fuel.
They claim it was for civilian fishermen, a statement the Pentagon refuses to validate or refute today.
So while the U.S. maintains it neutralized a narco boat,
Caracas insists America bombed a fuel skiff.
Behind secure doors, Pentagon lawyers are already auditing the rules of engagement applied that afternoon on board.
If the Mason sensors never verified hostile intent, and the mission might have technically breached U.S. Navy doctrine.
For the sailors on the Mason, that nuance matters, because every intercept from this point is taped.
It is analyzed and used to determine if the U.S. Navy can still assert moral high ground.
The ocean might forget rapidly, but the history books will not, and by the end of week.
Both vessels are far from the coordinates, but the waves they generated, political, legal, and ethical crash.
The Pentagon continues to argue the strike was righteous, while Venezuela keeps screaming it was a crime.
Somewhere between those two narratives sits the truth, and the kind that rarely survives the headlines intact today. So here is what we know for sure. A small rapid vessel exploded within view of destroyers. 4 people perished. No confirmed narcotics were ever salvaged, and the sole physical evidence was a barrel.
It bore the logo of Venezuela-owned oil corporation, leaving one extremely awkward question for us all.
Was this a triumphant counter-narcotics raid, or a tragedy the world just witnessed in real time?
These gray zone missions, part police work, part warfare, are erasing boundaries faster than ever before, now. The U.S. Navy is playing a deadly game with smugglers, militias, and sovereign states in disputed waters.
One misinterpreted blip, one false assumption, and you trigger an international crisis just like this specific one.
Eventually, you hit someone who wasn't in the game, so what is your take on this event?
Was the U.S. justified to act quickly, or should they have held back until they were absolute?
Leave your theories in the comment section because I read every single one if you appreciated this.
Click like and subscribe for more unfiltered naval history told without the fluff, and join the fleet.
You get loyalty badges, priority responses, and you help us bring more true maritime deep dives up.
Just hit join on our channel page, Winds of Thought, and get on board immediately, right now.
And remember, if you plan to charge a U.S. Navy destroyer, ensure your boat doesn't detonate first.
I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and stay safe on the water.